Hey, apparently they just announced closers for North America today. It is being run by Edmas, who also runs the current NA version of Critica. Right now, there's not too much information. It's basically just kind of explaining how the game works. They do not have any kind of beta date or anything. They have some information about the characters. You can see the cast here. Looks like they're going to be starting with Jay. I don't remember exactly when he was added to the Korean version. I think it was like a couple months later. It wasn't that long. Most likely they're probably going to have something like Critica, where there's the game is theoretically behind in content, but they have a lot of the balance changes from the later versions, which is how Critica is right now. Like, they have not really added any new content to the game yet. I think they're actually starting to roll out new content in the next few months before the end of the year. But a lot of the balance changes are relatively up to date. I think they're only like a couple months old. So that's probably how things are going to be here. There's nothing about the fatigue system. That's probably the thing that people are going to ask about the most, because Closers has a pretty restrictive and limited fatigue system. Not only do you have fatigue or stamina for your base character, you actually have it for your account in general. And on the Korean version, you have 340 account stamina, which is enough for basically playing two characters full fatigue bars, or you can kind of spread that out across other characters on your account. But the most you could do is 340. So I'm pretty sure that they're going to change that. I'm interested to see how they do it, because a lot of people don't like what they're doing with Critica, where they have the rest point system, where it's basically not worth playing past the first bar. If you play all the way down to the last bar, you're only getting 10% experience in drops. So, for all intents and purposes, you can play for the sake of playing, but it's almost always more time efficient to just wait until the next day when the rest points reset and just play from there. So I'm interested to see what they do. One of the things I know from having so much experience with action MMOs over the past maybe 10 years or so, is that the fatigue system, it's always very front-loaded, and the problem with that is that it gives a really bad first impression. People who are going to be playing this when it's inevitably on Steam, I know Critica is going to be on Steam pretty soon. They don't want... What happens is people play through the first fatigue bar in like an hour, because it's the same thing on DFO. You can get to maybe level 20 on DFO on your first fatigue bar. That only takes maybe an hour and a half tops. So if you're completely new to the game, you don't have any kind of new game plus kind of features, you have money to fund your character, you have someone else to carry you, and then at that point you can't play for another day. And what that makes a lot of people do is they get impatient and they uninstall. But pretty much every other action MMO, once you get down to the end game, there's not really a whole reason to use the whole fatigue bar. You pretty much just log on and do your dailies, whatever those may be. Sometimes they're bosses or dungeons that you can only run a certain amount of time. DFO is kind of different. It does have the hell mode grinding, where you are encouraged to run as much as possible in a day to kind of brute force the RNG. But most games don't really have that kind of mechanic. So I think it's going to be important for them to make sure that the first day of the game is not going to be too limited or restricted, because that's what really pisses people off. I'm not sure why people still think that fatigue systems are restrictive. I think the most restrictive thing that they could possibly do is keep the account stamina system, because that is restrictive. If you want to play all day, you have the day off from work, or you're homesick or something, you want to play all day, you basically can't on Closers. The only thing you really do is you can go through all the account stamina, and then at that point you can't play at all. So I'm pretty sure that's going to be changed. I will keep people posted. I honestly didn't like Closers that much. I think it is fun. It does kind of update the DFO formula or format quite well. It does modernize it quite a bit. DFO is 12 years old at this point, in Korea at least, so it's been around for a long time. And they're at the point where changing anything at all is this huge undertaking. So I don't know what's going to happen with this. I will definitely keep you guys posted. But if you want to sign up, you go here, and you have to make an account. You go to your account overview page, and then it will have an option to add Closers to your library. You do that and you're automatically signed up. That's pretty much all you can do at this point. They haven't really said anything about the changes. I'm sure that they're going to have to change things a little bit, because Closers is definitely one of the more restrictive games in the action MMO genre. Even in DFO, as much as people complain that the global version still has the fatigue and it hasn't really been changed at all from the other versions. The game's not really restrictive. If you have 40 characters and you want to run through 20 of them in a day, you want to play literally all day. There's nothing stopping you. Here in Closers, you can't do that. So I'm interested to see what they do. One of the problems with Kritika is that they've been making so many changes, and a lot of them haven't worked out. A lot of them have been widely maligned by the community, and they've had to spend most of the beta period kind of ironing that stuff out, and as a result, the game has been kind of stale. There hasn't really been any new content. I think we're getting new content this month, and it'll have been about 3.5 months, 3 to 3.5 months since the beta launch. There hasn't been like any new content at all. So I'm interested to see what will happen. I think if they don't make any drastic changes, then they will be able to catch up sooner. But the problem is that Closers in general has a very restrictive, kind of gameplay formula. So I don't know how they're going to adapt that to another market where people are not used to being limited to how much they can play, and Closers in general just had a way more restrictive fatigue system than anything else. So I'll keep you guys posted if anything happens. Closers in general, to me, I strongly dislike how they have bosses that just don't stagger to anything, and there's like just a huge glut of them in the end game, and there's like not really a whole lot of point to the combo system. That's always been the biggest thing I've disliked about Closers, but for all we know, they may even change that. Kritika pretty much added the shield mechanic to all the early game bosses, and they just recently took that out a few weeks ago, so maybe they'll tweak that too. I'll definitely, I signed up for the beta, so I'll keep you guys posted. Anyway, catch you guys later. Peace.